This is Thor Odinson, and you're listening to Across the Bifrost! Avengers, assemble!
Whosoever holds this hammer, if it be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every episode, we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. Everybody, today, we are on our Simonson Saga side quest with Balder the Brave and his 4-issue limited series. For this chat, you will have myself, the regular host of Across the Bifrost, Ryan Doe's here, and I brought in a friend who I have respected his content creation and work from afar for a long time, and now I actually get to have a conversation, a sit down, and we get to talk through some comics. So Tom Tormey, welcome to Across the Bifrost. How's it going, man?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's always cool to talk comics with great people, so thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
And you know, Tom, I've been kind of, speaking of good people, like just engaging, in a conversation. I've been watching your videos for a while now, little like snippets of comic history and little, oh, did you know this about Superman or the Green Lantern or whatever?
Right.
And I've just been kind of enamored with your account and your channel. Before we get kind of rocking and rolling with Balder, would you mind telling people about your little pocket of the comic book creation, content creating world?
Oh, yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you very much for saying that. I really am glad that you are enjoying the account. That means the world to me. And that is its purpose. About 4 years ago, I think I'm kind of losing track of time. I decided to create this Instagram account called Cosmic Comic History, which is the least pronounceable name in all of usernames. I'm not sure how I settled on it, but either way, and its intention was to connect with people who enjoy talking about comics. And my hope is that as people are looking at the account and going through the content, they're saying, "Oh, that's a cool little fact." And later on, when they're out with their friends or hanging out with their kids, and they say, "Hey, you know that Superman doesn't need to sleep," or Batman's favorite soup is French onion soup, or whatever it is. Just something that the meaningless, fun snippets of entertainment, and really just whatever comes to my mind, whatever I'm reading or researching. But it's cool that so many people have connected with it. I was blessed enough through the account to be picked up by Comic-Con Radio and Spoiler Magazine, for which I am now their comic book editor. So I have the pleasure of writing articles and doing comic book reviews. I just wrote a really nice article for, I guess it'll be September, on Stan Lee and kind of bucking the comic code, really talking about zombies. And it was a great, fun article to research, a fun article to write. And the comic book reviews, I also have a small podcast through Comic-Con Radio called the Cosmic Comic Nation, just to add to the confusion and the hard C sound. So, yeah, I'm pretty blessed that I have the opportunity to do all this, and I'm doing this all for fun. There's no money to be had. It's just a great time with great people.
Well, I know that you've, through your YouTube channel, the Cosmic Comic Book Nation YouTube channel, you've had
everybody.
It's going to trip me up.
No. Welcome to my help. Oh, I don't know why.
Really, people like listening right now, Tom has just played like a rib, has played a joke on everybody, because he's like, now, not only am I going to have to say this, everyone else is going to have to say this too.
Right.
But your YouTube channel, you've been able to talk to a lot of creators within the comic book world. Who are some of those people that you've been able to have sit down conversations with that people might be interested in checking out?
I had the pleasure of talking to Susan Eisenberg, who has been the voice of Wonder Woman for the last few decades through Justice League Unlimited, the Injustice games, and a plethora of other things. Tom Tormey, who shares my same last name but no relation, a Superman artist, the first Irish Superman artist. And I've been talking to a lot of indie writers, artists, everyone from Art Balthazar to Franco to Ryan Dunleavy. I mean, just some great, amazing people, people that write for DC, Marvel, Scout, IDW. And really, it all just kind of, I took Susan Eisenberg's advice. And when I reached out to a lot of people, I thought, there's no way they're going to talk to little old me. And 9 times out of 10, I take a shot and it goes. And I reach out to people, and they're not only willing to speak with me, which is a shock because 99% of the people that I've spoken to on my podcast are people that when I would go to a comic convention, I would gladly wait online and pay to just shake their hand and even have them look my way. So it's pretty cool. It's been a great experience. So one of the cool things was recently I attended a comic convention, and I met some of the people that I had spoken to, and they recognized me. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. That just made me feel pretty cool. I don't have a lot of goals. I'm not sure what my social media goal is. I don't want to. I'm not going to be endorsing anyone or anything anytime soon. But just the simple fact that I get to meet so many amazing writers, artists, creators, cosplayers. It's a blast. It really is.
Well, I know, especially the one that jumped out to me when I was looking through YouTube was seeing Tormey. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh, that's like, not that the rest of them aren't names that I didn't look into, but I was like, oh, that's a name I know, and I know his work. And so, yeah, everybody go check out the YouTube channel. We're going to link it in the episode description so that you can go check out what Tom's doing. But what we're doing today is we're going to, like I said, do a side quest in our Walt Simonson saga, and Tom's going to ride shotgun with us to look at the 4-issue Baldur miniseries that Walt Simonson produced alongside his Thor series at the time that he was writing Thor. We are at this point in the Thor side of the continuity. We're delving into hell. We're doing Scourge's Last Stand. If you checked out our last Simonson saga part with Jasmine Estrada, you heard that side of the story. This is the parallel. This is what is happening in Baldur's life from his point of view at around the same time. So, Tom, what's been like your history with Thor? This show celebrates Thor. We focus in on him, and he is our lens through which we see Marvel, we see movies. Coming up, we're going to look at a DC property, which is nuts to me. We're going to look at a DC property through the lens of Thor. Listeners, just go with me on this one. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But Tom, what's been your history with Thor and Asgard? Maybe even Walt Simonson. What's that been like for you?
Probably like a lot of people. I think I was about 7 years old when this Baldur series came out. So this is not something that my dad would have picked up for me at the time. He was giving Archie comics or Superman, Batman stuff. So I mostly grew up on DC and Archie. Marvel, occasionally he would get me a Spider-Man book. So Thor is one of those characters, probably like a lot of people, that I became interested in after the initial Kenneth Branagh Thor film came out, and was really not expecting much from a Thor film. I'll be honest with you. My knowledge of Thor was minimal at best. I knew he existed. I had seen him in a few Marvel animated properties. I remember watching the Viking-esque Thor appear in live action with the telemovie. What was it? The death? Was that the Death of the Incredible Hulk or Trial of the Incredible Hulk?
I think it's the Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Trial. So that is my Thor knowledge, and like a lot of people, I remember getting into a band called The Replacements, and I got into them long after they had broken up because of solo act, and I kind of treaded back and got to know their previous albums, and that's kind of my experience with Thor, where after the film I said, okay, let me go back. And of course Walt Simonson was just the name In when you're
Yeah.
talking about, Batman, you're talking about a few creators. You're talking about Frank Miller. You're talking about a few other creators. Uh, you know, uh, Neil Adams and so on. But going back to Thor, that's where it led me. After the film, it kind of led me in this direction. And I always tell people, and God bless the Thor readers and writers, I would lose my mind with the Shakespearean-esque writing. I just don't think I'd be able to keep up with it. I am always fascinated by a Norse god speaking like Bill Shakespeare, but I think it's fun. And when you invited me on and you told me we were talking about Balder, it gave me a chance to go back and reread the series. And it was way more enjoyable than I think my younger self would have thought.
I'll give you this on the Shakespearean Norse Vikings who talk like Shakespearean actors thing. That used to bother me a lot. Like I'd be like, this, historically, this is not how things. And like at some point, you just have to be like, live and let live. Like,
right.
Of course, it makes no sense. I honestly think, and maybe Stan Lee has gone on record for this, but it's like, what he wants this character to feel fancy and wants him to feel otherworldly. Well, what's fancier and more otherworldly than the English accent? Let's just do that.
I agree with you. I'm sure that's predominantly what he's thinking. This just sounds good. It looks good. I think my younger self in comic books was looking for some semblance of logic. And as I've gotten older, I've just come to appreciate the absence of logic. Just lose yourself in comics, the escapism of it. Why does Thor speak that way? Well, who the hell cares? Let him speak that way. It's a lot of fun, right? And I don't need the why anymore. I don't need it.
Yeah, no, well, it's so you're a big DC guy. There was recently in their DC Connect previews magazine that they put out, there was the big announcement that there's going to be Godzilla versus Kong versus the Justice League. And I had a friend that was like, well, why? I'm like, more like, why not?
Right.
Why the hell not? And I think
you can never.
Dan Mora's doing the artwork for that.
Yeah,
like,
he is. Oh my God!
Just I'll just you know what I'll do, DC. I'll open my wallet and you take as much as you feel is fair. That's what I'll pay for Godzilla versus King Kong versus the Justice League. We'll just do it that way.
It really is a crossroads of two of my favorite things. I've always been a big Godzilla fan. Again, going back to my dad, we would watch the Channel 11 just monster movie marathons on like Thanksgiving or just whenever they showed it. So I grew up on Godzilla and King Kong. I have a giant King Kong poster from '76 when the remake came out in my office. So like you said, exactly. You don't need the why. It's a giant lizard and a giant ape versus Superman. And I don't need anything else. I don't need. You know what? If you're a Godzilla fan, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers versus Godzilla.
Loved it.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I really well done.
So sorry to cut you off there, but I was like, I loved that series so much. Yeah. I believe it was Cullen Bunn wrote it. I don't know who did the art, but like it was just like Saturday morning cartoons, it's like
absolutely,
battle of the network stars. If all of your like action figures got together and you're like, I'm the Dragon Zord, I'm Godzilla, and then you just like mash them up together. That's exactly what that is.
Straight up fun. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, I realize we're down this rabbit hole, but I'm just going to explore this for a second. I remember when I saw the Godzilla Kong Justice League thing, I was like, oh my gosh, who would love this? It reminded me of our conversation with Jason Aaron that we did last year, where Jason was like, oh, I'm here for like any crossover. The less sense it makes, the better. I'm more in. He's like, if you give me Godzilla like against anybody, I'm in. So I'm just picturing like Jason Aaron learning this news and being like, oh my gosh, let's get all the action figures out of the box and we'll just play with them. And it also reminded me of our friends over at Podzilla, who have been going through every, Godzilla, Ultraman, Gamera, like all the Shin franchises. They've been going through all of those, and I'm like, man, this feels like it came along at just the right time. I might have to reach out to Micah and Jasher and have a crossover podcast. But that's across the Bifrost business. Tom, let's dig into Balder.
Absolutely.
Balder, at this point in the Walt Simonson Thor book, Balder has been a very key supporting character. He has been a lens through which we've seen battle, we've seen loss, we've seen frustration. At the beginning of Simonson's run, Balder has just returned from hell. He has fought himself out of hell, and he is struggling with some pretty obvious tentpole themes of PTSD. He is struggling with survivor's guilt. He's struggling with the responsibility of being a warrior who doesn't want to destroy anymore. There's a lot of themes that are going into Balder, and then we come along to this miniseries. And I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of the 4-issue miniseries from a 30,000-foot view look. And then Tom and I are going to kind of zero in on a few of our favorite aspects of it. And we're just going to give you as much as we've got about Balder the Brave, the 4-issue limited series from Walt Simonson, Sal Buscema, John Workman, and the whole crew that's been bringing you the parallel Thor books. So we cut in with Balder and Karnilla. They're trying to kind of live this idyllic couples, existence in the Norn Keep, and Agnar, a fellow Asgardian of Balder's, comes with news that Thor's going to go to hell and he needs you to ride up with him to knock on Hela's door and potentially knock it down. And Balder says, okay, well, if my king and my liege wants me to do that, I'll do that. Karnilla tries to come up with several different ways to keep Balder from going, but eventually we get a training montage of Balder and Agnar working out bro style, and they are getting ready to go. They leave, and Karnilla is kind of longingly still looking off into the distance because she doesn't want Balder to go. Then Balder returns from the events of Scourge's Last Stand that we covered in our last Simonson Saga episode. So if you're unfamiliar with that time period, go and check that out. That will give you more context on the Thor side of things. But they come back, and the Frost Giants have staged a coup where they are kidnapped. They kidnap Karnilla. She tries to fight them off, and they also take something called the Sword of Frey, which is an unbeatable sword where the warrior who holds it is undefeatable. He is unbeatable as long as the wielder is holding it. Balder shows back up, and he and Agnar go off to Jotunheim to rescue Karnilla and to fight off the Frost Giants. A lot of shenanigans ensue in this conflict between the Frost Giants and Balder and Agnar, but we get to a point where Karnilla has been turned into a small bird, and Balder, being the naturalist aficionado that he is, rescues the bird, not knowing it's Karnilla. I'm sure we'll talk about this part again, but he rescues this bird, and Karnilla is freed, but the Frost Giants get one over on Balder. They kidnap Balder and make him fight his way out. He is fighting a warrior who is holding the Sword of Frey, so he has to outthink the giant who he's fighting. He eventually does. They get free from the Frost Giants, and the Frost Giant King leader is the last one standing in Karnilla and Balder's way. They shrink him down to size, quite literally, and then they sneak out of Jotunheim, and Agnar goes ahead of them, learns that Balder's going to be named king he learns this information from Hogan the Grim. They leave a note for Balder to find on their way out of Nornheim, and when Balder and Karnilla show back up in Nornheim, the news reaches Baldur's ears that he is going to be named King of Asgard in Thor's stead. He goes off because it's his duty to his people, to his king, to his country, and Karnilla is left kind of empty-handed at the end of this limited series without her man. Her kingdom has been slowly demoralized by this frost giant attack, and now she's kind of got to do it alone. So they're off on their own paths, and we need to read more of the Thor book to find out where this goes. But we start the series with them together, trying to live this happy existence, and we end it with them having gone through this journey, now parting ways to go handle their own business. So, Tom, Baldur the Brave, issues 1 through 4. What were kind of some of your first impressions of the series and this story?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I thought the first issue was brilliant. I thought the first issue, because, as you mentioned, it is Baldur receiving the message that from Angar that Thor wants to ride with him into hell, which you have to give credit to Baldur as a character, because he's with the woman that he adores so grateful. He just loves being with her. But his brother, whether by blood or not, I always get confused with Baldur and Thor's lineage, whether they're friends or family, depends on, I guess, on who's writing the story over the course of the decades. But that Baldur is ready to leave everything to literally ride into hell with his friend. So I think that's a cool thing. I like how the first issue really is about setting up the relationship between Karnilla and Baldur. And as someone who is a novice to the supporting cast of, I'm aware of Baldur's existence because I watch cartoons too. So he showed up in quite a few cartoons over time.
Yes, he did.
But yeah, which was pretty cool. He hasn't showed up in live action yet, to my knowledge.
No movies. Yeah.
I don't know if that ship has sailed. I don't know if we're looking at any more Thor films.
Honestly, Tom, it probably has. It probably has sailed. Yeah. Like, without Asgard, Asgard proper, without Odin, without the Warriors 3, Sif is kind of the last one of these original Asgardians that we have left around Thor. Everyone else has either died or is kind of a no-name character that is not really based on a character from the comics. So who knows? But the chances are probably not at this point.
But it's a shame because they really missed out on a potentially great character. And as we see here in this series, there's so many levels and layers to him. But I do like how I think Angar is. So I always tell people, in reading this series, I was on the fence about Karnilla and her stance. Her endless devotion to Baldur bordered on near villainy. And I was a little confused. I was waiting to see if Karnilla was really going to show herself as the main antagonist of the series. And as we got toward the end of issue 1, issue 2, and 3, it becomes clear that it's the Frost Giants and it's Utgard Loki, who I'm very glad, and I do say one of the positive effects of the MCU on comic books was the redesign of the Frost Giants, because outwardly they were giants, but there was nothing in particular that said frost about them. And it's something that I felt that as a writer, they had to keep reiterating with us that it was cold, that the Frost Giants emanated cold. So it was interesting to see how that played out. But it was so Karnilla as the antagonist was something that I was anticipating. And then when they turned her into a kind of a mute bird, I'll be honest with you, I was a little disheartened because she seemed like such a strong, powerful character that was reduced to that damsel in distress that we've seen so many times before. It did seem like this was something that I don't know. I feel like a misstep, but I get it served the storytelling purposes as it often does. But I think at certain points you could have replaced Karnilla with like a potted plant or something. Her purpose in the story was to be rescued, and at that point, especially making her a mute bird, you could have replaced that bird with just about anything, and Balder would have saved it. I think Balder, if you
Yeah.
had put a tiny little rat in Balder's path, he would have gone out of his way to save the rat. It would, and I think we had pregame talked about this, but I think if I always think about it, because I grew up, I was born in '78, but really I grew up in the '80s and '90s, and I remember those Marvel trading cards, and on the back it gave you the power levels, the stamina and
Yeah.
strength and intelligence, and on most of those I would put Balder pretty damn high, except for the intelligence. It just doesn't seem like this,
Yeah.
immortal warrior would last too long, because you'd be like, oh my god, the city's burning. Oh, a rat! I gotta save. Oh, a bird. I don't know. I
He
did
does
find
seem
that
kind of like
hysterical.
a rube, a country
Yeah.
bumpkin. But he's the Snow White of the Asgard community, where like little birds help him get ready in the morning, and like squirrels run his weapons to him. I do think that, yeah, the treatment of Karnilla in this series, there was so much potential to make her this strong, like very, like almost overpowered, not villain, but at times antagonistic, because she wants one thing, and that's Balder.
Right.
Like that, there is no complexity to it from the desire. She wants Balder, and she's willing to do some pretty messed up, twisted stuff just to have him. She literally, almost psychologically, verbally attacks Agnar, where he can't speak. He can't even get the message out at the onset of this book. And Balder almost looks at Karnilla, let him talk. Like, Balder is simultaneously a rube, but he knows that Karnilla has done some pretty twisted things. He's
Right.
not eyes wide shut about her. I think is it fair to say, Tom, he's just optimistic? Like, he wants her to be the best she can be, but he's also not blind to who she is. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, absolutely. I agree with you. He is, and I guess you could fall under that issue with the intelligence. He's literally, I'd say, hopelessly optimistic. Any situation, he sees it as learning. He sees it as a way to become a better warrior, and it really is a nice little throwback. It is great to see characters written like that. That he wasn't angsty. He wasn't angry at the world. He was seeing everything as a way to become a skilled warrior, a better warrior, for Asgard, for Karnilla. He saw everything through that lens. So that was pretty fun to read, because you don't see a lot of books with that kind of hopeless optimism anymore. And I think this is what we're talking about, 1985. This is written, right? So
yeah, we're in the mid 80s at this point.
Right. So it was cool. I mean, everything, it had like a little Beastmaster quality to it, like where he's communing with the Lord of the Eagles, Whiteface, where he's communing with birds, and it was a lot of fun to see the good-natured side of it all.
Yeah, there's this almost folk hero-esque vibe I get from Balder, because he can do so many things. We learn in this series that he has kind of this burning effect that he has. Right. He can heat things up, which is, he's part Human Torch, but also the reference, now that we've talked about Godzilla, I'll say the reference, it was almost like burning Godzilla at the beginning of the Godzilla versus Destroya movie, which some listeners are going to be like, where I stepped into, 90s Toho references.
You got to go watch that one. That's a good one. If you
everybody. Yeah. teacher Tom and student Ryan need to, recommend to you, go watch Godzilla versus Destroya. It is peak Godzilla. Like, it's so good.
I know this is a side quest or a side quest, but he's
Right.
in writing, it's Godzilla versus Destroya with an AH at the end. But
Yes.
in the film subtitles, everything, it's Destroyer.
Yep.
And that's because they couldn't copyright Destroyer, so they had to change the spelling to copyright it. But like you said, you got to go out and see that. That's a good one. But yeah, I mean, so you're the Balder expert, you're the Thor expert, or aficionado.
Yes.
Is this firepower something that we'll see again down the line with Balder?
I'll put it this way. It's not something I've seen him do.
Okay.
Now, my knowledge of Balder falls off at the end of Simonson's run all the way until J. Michael Straczynski would pick up Thor in the mid 2000s. So he may have, that power may have resurfaced again, where he has this burning touch ability, and that's how he's actually able to defeat the frost giant who's got the sword of Frey later on in the miniseries. But I have not seen this power show up again. But if you're a listener out there and you're already tuned out because we were talking about Godzilla too much, which I don't actually think is a thing, Tom. You can talk about Godzilla too much, but and you know about this burning touch ability, let us know, because I want to know if this shows up again. I want to know if this is something that became part of Balder's power set during the Friends and DeFalco run through the 2000s. Like, who knows, maybe it showed up again. Great question. I wish I had a better answer for you.
No, it's fine. I mean, because it does seem very much out of the blue, and as you mentioned with the sword of Frey, in the first few pages of issue 1, it seemed as if that was going to be, and it does reemerge, of course, but we see a lot about the sword of Frey and then gone. Not a reference to it until towards maybe the end of issue 3.
End of 3, yep.
Yeah, where he goes against Hagen in the mini frost giant.
Yeah, the more realistically sized frost giant.
Yes, I do find that interesting. I because I think Loki falls under that category as well, right? Of a runt, kind of like
he's an abnormal frost giant. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it is interesting. I actually, leaving this book, was satiated in my quest to learn more about Balder, but was really intrigued to learn more about the frost giants because of their society and the way their society is structured, and like where like Loki falls in. So I think that this book did a good job with them as well. I think the frost giants are depicted at that kind of like right level of villainous where it's not, and I hate to say comic booky or too cartoony, but there is a logic to what they are doing. We're trying to take out these warriors so that their invasion of Asgard would be more likely to succeed. And I do think that was a clever approach to it. This isn't Utgard. This isn't the frost giants taking over Asgard. This is them preparing to do that, and Balder is an obstacle for them. I thought that was a clever way to approach it.
This is the plan that helps the bigger plan succeed.
Right. Yeah.
This is the setup. And you mentioned something earlier about the frost giants in the MCU era being more blue and them kind of evoking that cold feeling. I totally agree with you. I love the blue take on the frost giants because it makes them stand out. It makes them just the visual of them gives you the impression, oh, I'll bet that's a frost giant, or I'll bet that's some other type of a giant, like in Simonson's run we get fire demons. Well, how do we know they're fire demons? They are dressed in fire. That's how we know. And it's
right. Comic books are such a visual medium that you need that. Yeah.
So I love that, eventually we would kind of leave this version of the giants we would leave behind, and eventually we would adopt this more visually dynamic persona for them, where their coloring and their even like the icy kind of crags on their skin would signify to you, oh, that's this type of giant we're dealing with right here. So yeah, I really like that would change, because in this miniseries and in the Simonson run, and honestly most Thor stories leading up to this, the giants just look like big, slightly uglier versions of like a barbarian or a caveman type character. So I like that we would leave this behind. And I think Utgard Loki, the king, though, he's got this almost demented Odin look to him, where he's Odin if Odin this sounds crazy. He's Odin if Odin was even more unhinged. Like, imagine the angry, big, boisterous panels of Odin, but that's the only panel you ever get of him. That's Utgard Loki. Utgard Loki is he's kind of deranged. He's whipping up potions. He's stealing Karnilla, turning her into a bird. He's making people fight for the right to survive. He's a little demented, but he does create a very simple foil for Balder to conquer. And yeah, eventually Balder and Karnilla just, they up and leave, and the miniseries really hinges on their relationship. So Tom, as we kind of like land the plane on this limited series, what did you think about the relationship between Balder and Karnilla, and where we leave these characters at the end of the limited series?
You kind of feel bad for Karnilla. Her kingdom, the Norn realm, right, is kind of in disarray. I think the population had largely been turned to stone by Utgard Loki and the other frost giants, and now she's returning to a kingdom, and I think she loses her kind of right hand demon, Rat Tusk.
She does.
He was killed in issue 3, and as the series goes on, you really start to get a feel for Karnilla, and you start to almost empathize and sympathize with her. They give Rat Tusk like a warrior's funeral, which was nice. They couldn't just leave him. So at the end, when she is left essentially alone in a kingdom that is in complete disarray, you kind of understand Balder's mission now must go to Asgard to take on his new title, which I looked up a little bit more. I didn't realize that he also at one point becomes the ruler of Hell as well. So I don't know how many characters can say they've been both, but it's a pretty slim margin.
Probably a very short list.
Right. So I do, it is very fitting that Balder would leave. It fits with his character perfectly, that his duty is to Asgard and its people, and to Thor. But you also kind of feel bad for Karnilla that they had this chance at true happiness, and kind of like within the pages of the For the Man Who Had Everything, for Superman's story, and where Superman has to kind of give up what he considers paradise. We had to have Balder do the same, and for Karnilla as well. And surprisingly, kind of understanding on Karnilla's part. She understands that he's got to go, which again speaks to their relationship, speaks to their love for each other, but also their understanding of each other as people. So it was really well done. I agree with you that I do think amongst all the storylines, with Angar kind of developing as a hero himself, in the shadow of Balder, trying to kind of figure out his place in the world. I do think, though, that the relationship between the two was the star of the miniseries.
Yeah, it was the cornerstone that we built the rest of this off of. And I love when we get a good story with some action, some fun, some fun adventure type scenes. This didn't really feel as much like a superhero comic as it did an old school adventure, sword and sorcery, almost Conan the Barbarian without the violence. You know,
And the
that
great part
kind
of
of a story.
right. No, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And the great part of a story like this, and to go back to what we were speaking of earlier, is that you don't need the why in a story like this. If someone can turn you into a bird, oh, okay, they could do that. Someone can turn a population into stone. You in a story like this, in a world like this with the sword and sorcery, you can. And I think this has got to be around the same, like the height of like Conan and Conan live action Masters of the Universe on television. So I would imagine that it's got to be influential in some way, because that's the great appeal of series like that. Like, you could watch Conan, you could look at Masters of the Universe, you can now look at Thor and Balder in this series, and anything can happen, and you're cool with it. It's okay. You don't need the why. He's a bird. All right, he's a bird now. Great, I accept it. And that's really what allows the series to be so fun. When it could have been, I mean, there are moments where it is, the introspection is heavy-handed, especially in some of the fight scenes when we have Balder and Hagen going at it. He's doing some heavy introspection, plotting his every move. It was,
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was still enjoyable. It was still fun to read.
Yeah, totally agree. This series, if you're gonna read the Simonson saga from beginning to end, you're gonna read all of his issues. You might as well read this too, because it's still Walt Simonson writing. It's the same Sal Buscema art that we've gotten accustomed to after Simonson gave up the art duties for this book. So yeah, go ahead, read this 4-issue limited series. You get to learn a little bit more about a side character, which is not something that we get to see a lot in these older big runs. You know, there was a lot of supporting characters that are highlighted in Simonson's run of Thor. You know, Sif, Beta Ray Bill, the Warriors 3 get some play, but Balder's the one that got the limited series. Right. Balder's the one that got his own side quest drawn out over 4 issues of comics, 4 months of storytelling. So that, to me, signifies that Walt Simonson had a lot of faith and a lot of trust in the story he was going to be telling with this character, that it was substantive enough to warrant its own miniseries. And Balder's never been picked up for a miniseries again. In the age of modern comics, and Tom, you can probably speak to this as well, if you feel like it is, every character gets like a limited series at some point, you know, 4 or 5 issues,
spotlight, or
yes, something like that. And Balder's one of those characters where we've never seen him rise to this height again. So this really was probably a watershed moment for the character, at least.
I think when sword and sorcery books kind of fall back into style, as everything often does, I do think we'll see more of an interest in Thor's supporting cast, because they are and have been fleshed out beautifully over the last few decades. And I do think a character like Balder, I don't know about today. I honestly don't know about today. I'd be afraid to bring a character like that into a spotlight now, because I think writers would probably feel obliged to give him like an edge, like that kind of, and
right.
I think that would ruin a lot of the things that make him so special.
The charm and the almost the boyishness of him, the honorable version of him. He's kind of like Asgardian Steve Rogers, in that he's very virtuous. And don't get me wrong, like he's not a pansy, he's not a wuss. He can definitely hold his own. He's not just going to get steamrolled, but he's not as tortured as a lot of times we like our heroes to be. You know, heroes like Spider-Man. We love it when Peter Parker is struggling or Spider-Man's struggling. We like that to a degree because it makes him more human and more real. And when we see our characters go through complexity and struggle, it's very relatable. But in a lot of ways, Balder is like Captain America, where a lot of his stories, a lot of his characterization is, oh, that's the guy I strive to be like. I may not be like him, but that's who I'm striving to be like.
And that is essentially
Balder's,
yeah. I'm sorry, but that is essentially Angar's angle throughout the entire series,
right?
Is that he is striving to. Balder is not imperfect. Balder is not as flawed as you mentioned, like a Spider-Man is. He's an Asgardian Boy Scout, and that plays well for him. And that works for him. He doesn't have those flaws. If anything, his biggest flaw, as we mentioned, other than his kind of naivete when it comes to animals in particular, but also his flaw, if anything, is his unyielding loyalty to those around him.
Right.
Which I guess in retrospect does make him an excellent supporting character for Thor.
Yeah. Totally agreed. There's a lot to love with this character, and who knows, maybe someone will pick up Balder's story and tell it at the next level. But if not, we'll always have this limited series. We'll always have Simonson's approach to Balder. But yeah, that concludes our side quest, everybody. We're gonna cut back into our regularly scheduled Simonson saga in a few weeks, where we're gonna be talking about Frog Thor. We're going to be talking about Puddle Gulp and the shard of Mjolnir that turned into a hammer. It's going to be all sorts of fun stuff. And we've got quite the episode planned for that, where we're going to bring back some of our friends to talk about the wild and weird tales of Walt's world. So, Tom, have you read the Frog Thor?
One of those things, Throg, right? One of those things that I am acutely aware of. But I got to tell you, I'm interested now, and I definitely have to listen to the show when you guys cover it. I got to read it ahead of time and listen when you guys cover it. So this way, I'm on up to date.
I cannot wait to talk about it. It's when we started doing the Simonson saga, there were a few episodes that I had kind of earmarked. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to talk about Thor as a frog. Like it's wild and it's crazy enough, and it really, really worked. So Tom, before we get out of here, man, go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say, from what I understand, in his very brief appearance on the Loki show, they were able to get Hemsworth to do the voice of which is pretty cool. I mean, you gotta love it. You gotta love Loki's one of those shows I'm sure you must have absolutely loved, just watching every. No, but I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Well, and anybody that knows Loki season 1, the Thanos copter made me so beyond happy. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the thing from that thing. I felt like the Leo DiCaprio meme, where I was like, yep, that's the thing. Yep. And I can't believe we're just a matter of like weeks, maybe a little over a month away from Loki season 2. It looks so incredible, and I cannot wait. But Tom, is there anything you wanted to share or plug before we jump out of here and hop aboard the Bifrost? Got anything coming up that maybe fans and listeners might want to check out?
I'm going to be doing some great interviews with some indie writers, producers. Actually, I'm interviewing a gentleman in the next few weeks who's putting together a kaiju festival here in New York. So I'm trying to branch out to include especially some festival creators and cons, because they're coming back to the tri-state area. They're coming back to New York City. I think September, October, November. I think just about every weekend is booked with a different show. So there's a lot of cool stuff around. If you want to hear more from me or about me, you can find me at Cosmic Comic History on Instagram and TikTok. And I also I'm on YouTube as well, and I write for Spoiler Magazine, and you can listen to my podcast on Comic-Con Radio. It is the terribly named Cosmic Comic Nation. So, and of course, feel free to write to me, write in the comments. And much to the chagrin of my 15-year-old and 13-year-old son, who I respond to just about every comment or question. So if you want to hang out and talk, by all means.
Hey Tom, just a fair warning. I know you know this because we've managed to squeeze Godzilla into this conversation. You got to watch out, man. Getting all those kaiju together in New York City. I mean, you guys are kind of a lightning rod for that stuff.
I know it never goes well. Every damn movie
never goes well.
New York. Yeah, New York is never once every chance they get.
Never once has a giant monster approached San Francisco or New York City and been like, you know what? I don't feel like destroying this.
Yeah,
it never
else.
goes well.
I understand. But Trenton's not far. Trenton,
Trenton. That's
not saying that. Just saying.
Like you just go right across. Just a little ways away.
Arizona, it's right there.
Tons of Tom Tormey to love on the internet. We'll plug a lot of that in the episode description here, everybody. But that brings us to the close of the episode. If you want to check out more Mighty Thor podcasts, you can go look us up on Instagram at Mighty Thor Podcast, where, just like Tom said, you can interact with us. You can talk about Thor, talk about comics, talk about Walt Simonson, talk about what do you think should be done with Baldur the Brave in comics or in movies, talk about all those sorts of things. Just reach out to us and we would love to have a discourse, have a chat with you. You can also join the Thor Corps, which is our Patreon over at Patreon, and the link in the episode description. You can join the Thor Corps, and that'll get you bonus episodes, early episodes, and any tidbits we are going to throw people's way. I've been saying lately that you will have it as soon as we can give it to you, whether that's audio, whether that's guest announcements, whether that's schedule, episode ideas, all of that. We love our Thor Corps, our Patreon members. And if you want to join that selective group for a few bucks a month and just support us at that next level, we would really appreciate it. It would help us, take care of, subscriptions that we need to cover issues. It would help us with paying for our accounts to do video calls with people like Tom. So if you're interested in helping us at that next level, thank you. And we'd appreciate you giving that a look. But for myself, for Tom, this has been Across the Bifrost, and we're going to jump aboard the Rainbow Bridge and remind you that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing in the 9 realms, you got to do one thing, and that is stay worthy. Do 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 do.